Sebelum mulai, kita akan introduction dulu tentang media sosial dan startup. Perkenalkan, saya Giselle. Yang mungkin ada yang hubungin aku ya, nanya-nanya soal halte bus yang deket di sini mana. Iya, masih tadi yang ada di acara BMP ya. Kita mulai aja sekarang ya. Selamat datang di Selasa Startup. Siapa sih dari sosial kita, tech media company, fokus kita ada di tiga ini, education, information, dan information, dengan visi misi connect society with technology. Ini tiga core business kita. Semoga teman-teman di sini sering buka ya. Selama riset juga kita udah jalani dari sekitar tahun 2015. Risetnya juga nggak jauh-jauh dari tentang startup, tentang perkembangan teknologi. Nah, ini beberapa aktivitas dari sosial selain medianya itu sendiri. Kita ada desktop.
Selamat malam semuanya.
Malam.
Jadi startup hari ini kita bakal selamat datang dulu di startup. Kita malam ini bakal ngebahas tentang the unfair advantage. Bagaimana meningkatkan peluang dalam menyukseskan startup bersama Mr. Ash Ali from Kanye. The first CMO of Just It UK, you know. Please welcome the Mr. S.
Thank you.
Can I have you here?
Hello.
Okay, we'll start the presentation.
Okay, great. Let's do it. So, I've been in Indonesia for the last 7 days now on a tour. Surabaya, Jogja, Bandung. It's been fantastic actually. And I'm back in Jakarta. Coming up. But I'm going to take you through a presentation today on the growth marketing lessons for startup founders. And I'm going to talk a bit about my lessons in building a unicorn startup in London. And also a little bit about the concept that I've developed called the unfair advantage, which is all about how it's applied to startups. And the book is coming out in the new year, so you can get a copy of that then. So, without further ado, let's talk about Indonesia. Something interesting is actually happening. Gojek, Southeast Asia's largest taxi company, owns no vehicles. Facebook, the world's biggest media owner, has no content, creates no content. Airbnb, world's largest accommodation provider, has no real estate, owns no real estate. Something very interesting is happening, right? It's happening in our time. But, although this is happening, one thing I noticed with my experience in startups is that most startups fail not because they can't build a product, but because they can't get customers or traction. That's one of the biggest reasons why most startups fail. However, in Indonesia, there are 4 unicorn companies. 4 unicorn companies. You are in a great place right now in Indonesia. And the 5th one, Grab, is from Singapore, but it's actually the biggest market is Indonesia. So, tech disruption, technology, new companies, startups that are turning into corporates are here already. They're right in front of you and you're in the right prime space. But anyhow, let me talk about where I started from. So this is me in 1999. I was 18 years old and my parents are from Pakistan, typical Asian parents. They wanted me to do a degree and I said, maybe I'll try, but I dropped out of college twice and decided to build a website in 1999, an e-commerce website selling shoes online. And everyone said to me, no one's going to buy shoes on the internet. They were kind of right, because it's the early days, but we did sell a lot of shoes. But then I sold that company and I moved to city of London. I was living in Birmingham, and Birmingham's like Surabaya, and I moved to Jakarta effectively, which is London, so Birmingham to London. And when I moved to London, I became a head of online for various different companies. I worked in various different departments as a corporate executive. I had 30 people reporting into me. I ran a marketing department. I learned about budgets. I started to realize that most people who were building websites needed something else called traffic. So we focused on generating traffic for our clients, agency side. And so I learned a lot about how the corporate world worked and how new media marketing, which is what the term they used, was my job title. And in fact, many of the job titles that exist and will exist in the future don't exist now, which is quite interesting. Even if you're at school now or education, you don't know what you're training for, so it's kind of crazy sometimes. But anyhow, I got the itch. I was an entrepreneur. I was very entrepreneurial. I wanted to do something, and I've always done side hustles, always done projects. And so I decided to do a company called Just Eat. And the picture there you see is of me, David, and Boone, the first founders of Just Eat in the UK. Now, Just Eat is an online platform for restaurants and takeaways. Just like GoFood. Everyone knows GoFood? GrabFood, is it GoFood? GoFood. This was in 2007, before the smartphone was released. It was released late in 2007, and everyone said to me, nobody's going to order food online. Nobody's going to order takeaway online. Whilst I was at this stage here, everyone was like, the internet's not going to work, you're not going to be successful, what is this that you're doing? And my sister gave me a birthday card. I was 19 years old, and on the birthday card it said, future.com millionaire. And they gave and you go, why are you spending all that time in the attic, not coming downstairs, doing anything with us? So I put it on the windowsill, and I left it there, and I looked at it every day. Fast track, 10 years later, in 2007, I built this company with the guys in Just Eat. And in 2014, we IPO'd the company for £1.5 billion. And my sister was the first one to call me and say, oh, you've done well now, haven't you? And I was like, yeah, it's okay now. But it reminds me of how people thought about me at the time when you started something. Now I'm a multiple investor in startups. I just sold a company in Dubai called Wash Plus, which is an on-demand laundry app, which I just sold recently. I've written a book called The Unfair Advantage, and I do lots of advice work around startups. And the presentation today is going to give you a perspective of me being around all tables. Bootstrapped a company, raised money in a company, and whilst I was at Just Eat, I raised £10.5 million, and I did the first TV campaign for it as well. My role has always been about growth. That's why I think growth is the most important part of a startup. So you're going to get lots of people saying, nah, never, it's not going to work. You know, you're going to get lots of these people. But we are in a time where you see all these changes happening. Many of the companies the unicorn companies have not existed a few years ago. And they're disrupting well-known established brands. So today I'm going to give you 5 lessons from growing a food tech startup. And what I learned along the road as a marketing director of a company called Just Eat. So the first lesson is to know thy customer. Would everyone agree in this room that students love takeaway and restaurant food? Yeah? Yeah? Yeah. I thought the same thing. They do love takeaway and they do love restaurant food. But students are also very astute. And they're also very cost conscious. So they were using our website to order their food, but they were going to the menus and ordering the meal deals, which were very small value, plus they were using the vouchers that we gave out to them, the £5 vouchers, and they were very good at using them. And I realized very quickly that students, although I thought they were the first set of customers for Just Eat, they probably weren't, because we weren't making the commercials on that customer work. So when you have a startup, the first thing you do is think of your customer, right? And you think of the first customer that comes in your mind, and you start to go after them. It's probably not always the right approach. So one day, I was at the office in Just Eat, and a restaurant called in, and it was a disgruntled restaurant, he was upset. And the restaurant was like, I don't want to give 10% of my orders to Just Eat, because we used to take 10% from the platform, 10% of the orders that went through. And I was like, why are you so upset? It's like, look, I don't like it, I don't like Just Eat, I don't like you guys, just take me off the platform, I don't want to serve food to any of your customers. Then I started to probe a bit more, and I realized that actually, the reason why he was saying it was because there's a customer who ordered from our website twice a week from his takeaway, but the problem was, he said, that this customer used to walk past his takeaway and say hello, and live on top of his takeaway, but use our website to order the pizza. And he was losing 10%. I didn't believe him at first, so I said, okay, I get your point, let me look into this. So I found out who that customer was. I looked at his address, Google Maps, put it in, and the pin was like boop, 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 directly on top of the takeaway. It was on top, it actually looked like it lived in the takeaway. It's like, oh, interesting. So I did something that most startup founders don't do. I picked the phone up and I spoke to the customer. So I picked the phone up and I spoke to the customer and said, hey John, use our website on a regular basis. I'm Ash Ali, I'm the marketing director. You're a loyal customer, thank you for being a loyal customer. Tell us more about yourself, and you order quite a lot of takeaway with us, it's really good. And the first thing he said to me was, "Ash, your website's crap." I was like, "Oh, okay. Website's crap. Okay." Then I started to talk to him about, why do you think, why are you ordering twice a week from us then? Because, oh yeah, you know, I need to do that because it's easy for me. Then I asked him, why are you ordering your pizza from the takeaway pizza shop that you're living above when you can just go downstairs and pick it up? And then he said to me, the reason I do that is because I'm the head of an online gaming clan, and I need to be in front of my screen when I'm playing games, and I order pizza whilst I'm playing these games and doing multiplayer gaming. So I just open my laptop and order it from there. It comes up to me. I was like, that's interesting. What did I realize? That gamers were the early adopters to Just Eat. That gamers would use our website even though they thought it was crap. That gamers. So then I put my marketing budget towards gamers and hackathons and esports and all that type of stuff. And I got my early adopters. So, know thy customer. Second lesson, go where your customers go. The first thing startups do when they marketing budget on Facebook advertising, on Google, on AdWords, on email marketing, all the marketing advertising opportunities are out there. But what I learned at Just Eat was that actually to be optimized in a startup stage when you have no budget is to go where your customers are already going. Because a lot of times we're disrupting an existing industry. So in the case of Just Eat, and in the UK, most people were ordering their takeaway on the phone. In fact, millions of people today still order the takeaway on the phone, surprisingly. So how did they do that? Well, one way of them doing that was to get the menus from the takeaways that were given to them in the doors. So in the UK, through the letterbox, all the restaurants and takeaways put their menus. So what people do then is they take the menu and they put it up on the fridge, and the one they like, they keep. And then they get the phone number from that when they're hungry, and they call. So I was like, okay, that's interesting. So that's the normal channel they're using right now. How can I be part of that user journey? So what I realized was that in Just Eat, we had what we call economies of scale. We had thousands of restaurants on our platform, and they were all spending money on these menus and printing. So I thought to myself, why don't I go to one printer and do a deal with the printer to say to the printer, I can get you 500 clients if you give me a massive discount on the printing of menus, so I can pass that on to the restaurants. They agreed. Now, the restaurant would save 50% on the same printing they did for the existing menus through us. But the biggest caveat that I had was to make sure they put the Just Eat logo on the menus. So now, all the menus that were printed at half price had the Just Eat logo on them. Those logos were then put onto the fridge, and everyone was seeing those logos. The brand was being seen. Go where your customers go. Second thing I noticed was that most people were going onto Google and typing in pizza restaurant local area, and there were lots of business listing sites, directory websites we call them. And I noticed that people were just finding the telephone number and calling. So then I approached the owner of this business listings website and I said, why don't you put a link next to the telephone number so people can order online too, with the restaurants that are already on our platform? And they said it's not going to work. And I said it could work, let's have a try. They wanted to know what was in it for them. I said, why don't we do a revenue share, 50% revenue? So we put those links up on the business listing websites. And guess what the percentage conversion rate was on those? 60%. 60% of people who went to find takeaway online. Go where your customers go. That you're going through, especially when you've got limited marketing budgets. Third lesson, be creative. You know, when you've got no money, you become more creative and resourceful. One of the things I realized was that there was a big company, soft drinks brands company called Coca-Cola, and they're very good at branding and advertising. And one of the things that we forget in the startup world is we forget to think about branding. We always focus on the digital metrics, but branding is also very important to get brand awareness and top of mind. So what I realized that we had thousands of these takeaways and restaurants, and they all had high street presence. They were all on the high street, they all had retail outlets, and they all had windows with advertising on them. So I thought, why don't we give them a sticker that they can put in the windows, so that anytime someone walks past, they'll see that they're part of Just Eat. Now, it sounds like a very simple thing, right? Putting stickers in the windows, and that's not very smart, but it's very simple. But do you know how many customers we got from these stickers in the first year? I wanted people to guess who thinks 5% came through from the stickers? Raise your hands who think 5%. 10%? 20? 30? 30%? 35? 40? Actually, in the first year, we didn't do any whiz-bang AR, VR, special growth hacking, special technical thing. We just put stickers in the window. More than 50% of our customers from that in the first year. Be creative. Don't underestimate. Lesson number 4, know your numbers. I know there's a few people in here who want to start startups, who are running startups. The most important thing when you're marketing and building a startup is to know your unit economics. Does everyone know what unit economics is? Basically, know how much it costs to get a customer, know how much it costs to keep a customer, and know how much money the customer makes for you over a lifetime value. That's for the consumer proposition. Unit economics, they're called. You have to know those numbers before you go out to market. Because otherwise you don't know how much money you're spending and what your true return on investment is. But also, when you're a startup, you don't have much marketing budget to play with. And it's important to, as a team, as a startup team, to decide on what are the core metrics of your company. And at Just Eat and all the other startups I've founded, we always try and focus on one North Star metric. The North Star meaning the main metric of the company. Because every time we went into the office, every time we went into any meeting, everything we discussed was, will it change that North Star metric? The main metric that drives the growth in your business. Deciding on the North Star metric is very difficult, but once it's decided, everyone has been aligned to one metric in the business, and everything you do should be focused towards that, especially in the early days. We call that the North Star metric. The other thing that I learned during the startup phase was that don't over-rely on data. I know we've got lots of tools, A/B testing tools, lots of different tools you can use. But actually, when you're doing testing in the early is the wrong approach. You might be missing a trick. What you need to be is data influenced, not just data driven. Making the wrong decision. You need a lot more data to use data in the right way to get the insights. And in the early days, you need to also take into consideration qualitative measures. Qualitative measures are things like someone likes my website. Days, because they are also very important. You know, I spent a lot of time with founders all over the world and my own co-founders, and when we asked them, how did you come up with the idea for what you're doing? And all of them say, I had a hunch. I had gut instinct. And sometimes, as a startup founder in this day and age, we discount this gut instinct. If you look at all the top entrepreneurs, they all had gut instinct as a starting point. So you need to utilize that because your gut instinct has millions of data points already inside you. So you need to balance it up with data, know your numbers, but also remember that you, as an entrepreneur, understand the market and have a gut instinct about it. And you have to go with that, but usually your gut instinct is right. So remember to use qualitative and quantitative measures when you're building your startup, not just being data-driven on small numbers. Lesson number 5, have a growth culture. This is, I think, one of the most important things I learned in all my startups, because startup equals growth. That's what Paul Graham from Y Combinator said. Being in a startup is all about growing the startup and being around people who are willing to make mistakes and iterate. I know it's the typical Asian thing not to fail. If you fail on something, that's it, it's game over. But in the startup world, it's very different. Failing fast, failing forward, learning from your mistakes is critical to success, because it's about speed and acceleration to growth. And you need to have a growth mindset. A mindset that means that if you try something, it doesn't work, try something else, go around it, jump over the obstacle, go around the obstacle. But if you're working with a fixed mindset, it makes it difficult for you to try and test and iterate and do things. But more so, you might think you have your own growth mindset, which is great, but the people you work with might have a fixed mindset. So it becomes very important that you also analyze in other people if they've also got a growth mindset. If you've got a co-founding team, and there's 2 of you, you both need to have a growth mindset, because you're never going to succeed if one's got a fixed mindset. It's going to be difficult to work. So you have to define the culture of your company, of your team, right from the outset. This also dictates how you hire new people underneath you, because the growth culture and mindset is critical to growing fast and learning quickly and deciding on the culture of the business. Every employee that you hire or new person coming into your company needs to have the same mindset. So here's your 5 key takeaways from my learnings of building Just Eat. Know your customer, go where your customers go, be creative, know the numbers, and have a growth culture. But there's something else I want to talk about. Has everyone heard of growth hacking? Growth hacking? Okay, so growth hacking is a term that's used by performance-based marketeers. It's about growing something really quickly and fast by hacking things and getting a faster way to do it. What I noticed was that people spend so much time talking about all the technical whiz-bang things, but they forget about the early stage of a business, and I call it growth scrapping. The growth scrapping stage is the early stage of a business where you close your laptop and you go to your customer's office and sit down with your customer and have a chat with them. You get to know what the problem is. You speak to them. You have to be scrappy. You have to learn about your customers. You can't do that by sitting behind a computer and just looking at numbers and analyzing it. You need to learn the psychology of your customers, learn more about what your customers are saying, but also not what they're saying, but in between the lines of what they're saying. Because sometimes what they say is not what they mean. And you can see that through actions and data points on your own website. But spending time with your customers is one of the most critical parts, and I call that the growth scrapping stage, to get to know who your customers are, things you're going to do which aren't going to work. You know, like unscalable things. Because that's going to give you learnings, but also it gives you the opportunity to understand your business inside out. Because if you sit in front of investors, they're going to ask you questions. You need to know it inside out. But on top of that, when you do decide on moving out from growth scrapping stage and looking at leadership roles and looking at hacking stages, which is further down the line, you know what type of employee to hire. Now, how can you hire a salesperson if you're not going to sell yourself? I need a salesperson. Have you sold any products yourself yet? No. Sold 1 or 2. It's not enough. How do you know what kind of salesperson you need? So it's vital the growth approach needs to be done by rolling the sleeves up. It's hard work. There's no ifs or buts around it. But this is assuming you have something that I call a solid unfair advantage in your startup. You know, I've mentioned all the things, connecting the dots backwards. Connecting the dots going forward is really hard. But what I noticed was that companies need to have a solid unfair advantage, and all the top successful startups that I've seen have this unfair advantage. They have an unfair advantage in their business. And you're probably wondering what an unfair advantage is, so I've got a definition for you. So an unfair advantage is a condition or a circumstance that puts an individual or a startup in a favorable business position. So let me give you a top-line example of this. Just a general one. There's two people applying for a job. They've got the same CV, same experience, the same passion for the job. One person is applying for the job in the company, and in the department, her auntie is working in one of the departments. The other person applies for the job and doesn't know anybody working in that company. Exactly the same person, same passion, probably even more merit. Who's going to get the job? The first person. That's why I call it unfair advantage. I don't use the word unfair in an unethical or a negative way. I use it in a positive way, and I'll explain to you how that works in the mild framework that I talk about. It's the same with a startup. I, as an angel investor, invest in startups. Let me give you another example. I have two people come to me with the same health tech idea. The first person, the reason why he wants to do this health tech idea is because his mom is very sick and she's been suffering from this disease, and he wants to solve this problem and make it easier for his mom. The second person who comes to me has exactly the same idea and wants to do exactly the same problems for the same disease. But the second person has worked in a hospital for 15 years and has had over 150 patients with the same disease. Who I'm going to invest in? Second one, right? That's an unfair advantage. However, you might be thinking, oh, what's a bit unfair? The guy's really passionate about his mom. My advice to him would be to partner with the second one. That's your co-founding team. Doesn't mean you haven't got it, but you need to build a hard to do business. It's not easy. That's just a top-level example of how unfair advantage works and how we have an edge. They don't tell you what it is though. And I explain to you what the edge is. I'm trying to explain a thing called the Miles framework. And the Miles framework is built with 5 pillars, and mindset being the fundamental part of the whole mindset. So you've got to have the right mindset, you've got to have a growth mindset to apply this in the first place. But this framework is a lens that I've created for you to see other people's success, but also, more importantly, as a self-awareness tool for yourself. So, the first part of the framework is money. Look, we know money matters. We know it matters. That's the reality, the truth. But guess what? When I had no money, I was more creative. Having less money made me more creative and resourceful. It made me do new things. Having too much money, you might just spend it in the wrong way, or you might be too scared to spend it. You have more fear. So money does matter, but money matters once you've got something going and you want to scale something. But it's not always the answer to your problems. I have to, right now, work out how my 11-year-old daughter, who's growing up with privilege, where her favorite place is Bali and New York, is going to have the same passion and fire in her belly to do something in her life. Money works both ways. It might disengage you, or it might engage you. So never ever feel like you haven't got enough money, because money is not always the answer. Intelligence. You know, everyone said to me that you have to be super intelligent to start a startup and run a business. No, you don't. Having some intelligence is great. Of course, you hear in the media and the press all about the geniuses like Mark Zuckerberg and the Stripe guys and Warren Buffett and all these top guys, but you never ever hear about all the other entrepreneurs. Extremely from the top entrepreneurs is not pure intelligence. Just because you were rated and graded at school, what I noticed was that there's a different type of intelligence that the top founders have. The ability to collaborate and work with other people, to bring intelligent people around and work with you on a project or a problem. Those skills are the ones I noticed in the leadership. Those are the skills that drove success. Of course, but what I'm trying to say by this framework is to say that if someone says you're not intelligent enough or you haven't got the right grades at school, doesn't mean you can't be successful. You still can. You still can. English literature at school. Indonesia. I walked into an office, old creepy office, and there was all these books on the wall, and all these books were the Harry Potter books. Has anyone read Harry Potter? The Harry Potter books. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books. And I spoke to the people who published Harry Potter. And a few days ago, they decided to publish my book. Next year, Bloomsbury. Yeah, I felt. Doesn't mean you can't achieve success. Location and luck. Being at the right place at the right time matters. We know this. No one talks about it, but I do. You look, being at the right time, at the right place, with the right mindset, all makes a difference. All makes a difference. And so does luck. You know, one of the biggest reasons why most companies fail is because of timing. You can't control timing. You really can't. We think that the top entrepreneurs of this business are geniuses and they know everything. They don't know. The founders of Google, Sergey and Larry, they tried to sell Google to Yahoo. Their company for $1 million to Yahoo. But Yahoo said no. Where's Google now? Who's the genius now? And there's a lot more to this, by the way. There's a lot more to it. I am extremely, extremely lucky that I was born in the UK. My parents are from Pakistan. That's just luck. I have no control over that. I was lucky that I was born in the UK. But also, if you want to know how luck has an impact in people's lives, I'm not seeing luck as a wishy-woo type of thing. When you meet successful people, ask them, what lucky breaks did they have? Because luck is one of those things that comes to you, it's about grabbing it, and some people don't grab it. And the top entrepreneurs were like, yeah, I did this, but that was just by accident. So you learn from people who've been successful, and a lot of them will say that luck was an element to that success, but it's grabbing that luck and doing something with it. So just be aware of that when you read stuff in the press and the newspaper and online in media articles, they don't talk about this element, that my dad was a billionaire and he gave me £1 million to start the company. That was my first seed raise, but actually I'm talking about raising 20 million right now. That I went to the same school as Evan Spiegel, and he was part of my alumni group. That's luck. So, the reason I talk about this is because I want us to be grateful for what we do have and not what we don't have. That's why I'm doing this framework. It's about knowing what you have, not what you don't have. Education and expertise. I know Asian culture is educate yourself, get as many degrees as possible, but having 3 degrees doesn't mean you're going to get more customers. Doesn't mean you're going to have a great character. Doesn't even mean that you're going to know what you're talking about. Education is important, 100%, we know this. But times have changed now. We're in a different era now. Our parents' era is changing. Of course there are certain things you need to educate you. If you want to be a doctor, you need to go to university. You can't do it without going to university. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you might want to study something that you're passionate about, that you love, rather than just doing something because your parents told you to do it. But the most important reason why I talk about education should be educated, but the fact that you shouldn't stop educating yourself after university or college. Self-education is now the new opportunity. Educating yourself online. Don't stop educating. I've got a degree, I've got a bachelor's, I'm thinking I'm going to get a good job because I've got a master's. It doesn't work like that anymore. It doesn't. The value out to the world is going to get different. And then what we have is this entitlement feeling. I'm entitled to a job. You have. But what's more important is your education by yourself, your self-education. And expertise. You know, you need to build expertise, you need to have expertise in something. Marketing, digital marketing, that was my expertise. That was my core skill. So you have to develop a core skill and be passionate about it. I did it for free. I worked on people's websites. I built my own websites. I did it for free. I loved it. It was a thing I wanted to learn. I wasn't paid for it. In the real world for that, and is it valuable to employers? Is it valuable to the outside of work? It's in your time, so whenever you want to do it, there's no stopping you now. And that's what I did. I read books, I learned how to program, I learned how to do SEO. I did it all myself. I'm self-taught. Because the most important thing I learned along the road of me learning new things is that the best way, one of the best ways to learn, is to learn the stuff that you want to learn. The missing component in the education system is that there's all lecturers and professors teaching you, but they've never done any of it. So you want to learn from people who have already been, and they have lots of stories like I do now, sharing with you what happened. And the final one on this one, which is a provocative one, is status. Look, your status matters. We all know this. The house you live in, the handbag you carry, these all matter. Growing here, I used to be a poor kid and look at the designer shops and go, I want to buy the designer clothes one day. Now I can walk past the designer shop, buy anything in the designer shop, and I don't. So don't. But what I realized was that why were we doing that in the first place? And why do we need to know this? We need to know this because we need to be conscious of the reality of the world. People will judge you. You will be judged. But understanding it is very important. So, externalizing your... What I found, growing up poor, being on both sides of the table, having no money, having lots of money, having wasted... Important is your inner status. It's the story you tell yourself in your own head of who you are. That's more important. Who you are going forward, because it's going to give you your personal story. It's not what other people tell you who you are, the external world, it's what you tell. Because every one of you guys are unique and special. You all have a unique DNA, you all have unique experiences, and you've all had the ups and the downs. And guess what? When you haven't had adversity in your life like I've had, it makes you stronger. If you look at some of the top entrepreneurs in Indonesia and the UK, they've had some stuff that's not worked out badly, and they've come back out of it. So adversity is a good thing, but it's not a good thing at the time. You don't realize it, but it makes you who you are now. But if you turn back, if I turn back the clock and said, I wish my parents were rich so that I could go on school holidays and my parents had a nice... That would be the case. But actually, What happened? I looked at that. I'm going to read, I'm going to learn myself, I'm going to do work experience. I did all the things I wanted to do to get myself the experience I wanted. And now when I see those same friends from school who had all that, they're in a different place to where I am. So it's made me who I am, but it's the story I told myself. I don't want people to have the victim mind. It doesn't matter. But it's the story you tell yourself. And when you sit down in front of your customers, when you sit down in front of investors, the status story that you tell yourself will ooze out. They'll start liking you. You won't even know why. There's a good energy about that. But if you go there with this false externalization of status, it's going to be a problem. If you go looking at the world and looking at people who've got things and saying they've done it, that could be a problem. But they're not very happy. And the reason why I talk about status is because being an entrepreneur, your mind, and you need to have control of your mind through this process. That's why I talk about status, because people will judge you. It doesn't against anybody else, and that's what I feel like. Your success is your personal success, not anybody else's. It's where you've come from and where you're going. That place, where I am now, is in a completely different place. That's what you need to do with what you're doing with your company, your business, your life, everything. So look at yourself. So be self-aware with it, use it, and hopefully, inshallah, you'll be able to benefit from this. And that's me. Thank you very much, guys. You can get my book next year. I'm on Ash Ali on Twitter, Ash Ali UK on Instagram, Facebook. Send an email. My local rep Hamza is here. Any questions you want to ask? I think we have a Q&A session now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ash. That's inspiring. For the audience, maybe if there's any question, you can raise your hand.
Thank you. My name is Ares. I'm a physics student at the University of Indonesia, and I'm trying to build a startup now. You mentioned earlier about North metric.
North Star, yes.
Yeah, North Star.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm curious about that. How can one team decide what are their North metric, North Star, and can you give me an example of that? Can have clear.
Yeah, so the North Star metric is independent to the business that you're starting. For example, if you're starting an e-commerce company, it might be the total revenue per month. If you're starting a SaaS, software as a service business, it might be the churn rate, minimizing the churn rate. So type of company you're in, and then you apply that. And the thing is, the North Star metric is not set, and there's different challenges. In the early days of B2C, so one of our first North Star metrics was to make sure that we got enough. Because when I marketed the service, and someone comes to our website and types in an area, and there's only 3 restaurants there, they're going to get. So your North Star metric will change based on where you are with your business, but there'll be an ultimate vision for what sustainability, and it's very hard to create that North Star metric, difficult to do. So you walk into the office, your product developer, your CTO, your sales guy, your marketing guy, your delivery driver, everyone knows what your aim is. So we don't waste time. But your metrics will change. Sometimes you might have 2, sometimes you might have 3, you might have 1 per department. It's how you decide that. that you can manage. Otherwise, we just don't know what we're doing. That's the whole idea behind it. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much.
So, if there's any questions, okay. How about telling you about? I'm kind of interesting with your unfair advantage. The unfair advantage. Do you have any experience personally or in your business?
Yeah, I can give you an example.
Experience.
Let me give you some examples, because unfair advantages, there's lots of them, they're intertwined. There's not just one main thing. A lot of times it can be a route to market. For example, Microsoft installed itself on Dell computers. That became an unfair advantage for them, because everyone who had a Dell computer, advantage, no one else can get in. An unfair advantage is something that you can't copy or buy. So, when we were doing Just Eat sales, I went into a restaurant once and I went with the sales guy. Restaurants doing sales, selling them on Just Eat. Join Just Eat, you know, we want you to serve your food through us. And I went to a Chinese restaurant and I walked in and went, as soon as I walked in, the lady was like, no. Shouted back, ah! And I was like, oh, okay. And then a chef came out, went under the counter, got a baseball bat, and went, get out my shop. That's my first experience of trying to sell. What did I learn? I learned that we were getting a lot of Indian and Pakistani cuisines on our platform because we could relate to each other. So I went back to the office and said, guess what, guys? We need to hire a Chinese person. The top salesperson every month. He signed up everyone. An unfair advantage that you don't think of. The unfair advantage was language. The unfair advantage was culture. You see, sometimes we say, oh yeah, but there shouldn't be sexist, there shouldn't be racist, there shouldn't be this, the reality is. So let's deal with the truth, but use it to our advantage. That's an example of an unfair advantage. Exactly.
Take the benefit.
But I went on the street to learn, right? Otherwise you wouldn't know this stuff. That's why as startup founders, you need to get out there, talk to your customers. Your customers think your idea is, or your mom thinks it, or your friend thinks it. So what your customers think. So that's more important. I want you to spend all your time with customers. I spend all my time with customers. Then the other problem is that we have people starting companies because they want to start a company, because they want to be a startup founder. It's like being a rock star. I'm a founder, startup founder. Or they don't like their boss. Those are the wrong reasons to start a company. The right reason to start a company is because there's a. It's all about your customers. But the good news is, once you do define who the customer is and the problem is, being an entrepreneur can change your life. It's changed my life. It can change your family's life. It can change the country you're in. You can make an impact everywhere by being an entrepreneur. But the risk, calculate the risks accordingly and have a mentor and an advisor to support that process.
Yeah, that's inspiring. Kayaknya saya percaya di sini banyak entrepreneur juga ya. Coba ada yang mau nanya, Pak? Ya, boleh langsung.
Thank you very much. My name is Suci.
Hi.
I am the founder of Batik Sakera.
Okay.
Batik Sakera.
What is it, sorry?
Batik.
Okay, I'm not batik.
Not scrap, but
Batik prints.
not print, but this is the original. Yes. So my vision, I have building my business since 2 years ago.
Okay.
But in this year, I will be focused to from the company, and I want to be focused to build my business.
Okay.
Okay. So my business is coming from the idea that I want to preserve of handmade batik of Indonesia, because handmade batik Indonesian traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because there are many companies that sell batik with printing,
Yes.
but I want to sell. So I collaborate with the artisan of batik from one. This is the first idea when I success in Madura. So I will go to some city to preserve the handmade batik. Introduce my business to Luxembourg people, to Luxembourg French. The batik is made.
Yes. Yes. I get it.
So he appreciate the process,
Yes.
not the how is the beautiful of
Yes.
batik.
Yes.
And he welcoming me to have a boutique in Luxembourg,
Yes.
and other people the work how the batik is made.
Okay. Yeah.
And also he appreciate Bulgaria to have one boutique also.
Okay.
So other country, other people where is made.
Yes.
But when I speak to Indonesian people, they still choose the lower price. People very appreciate the process. I ask your suggestion. The strategy to have boutique in Luxembourg and Bulgaria.
Yes.
To have a boutique over there and to promote batik. I success in other country, and I invite the Indonesian people to choose the real handmade batik than the printing batik.
Okay.
Because the handmade batik to grow the economy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I need your suggestion.
So what do you need my suggestion on? What's the question?
Sorry.
What's the actual question?
No.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I got it. Okay, thank you. So, business and going over to the dark side by resigning. It's a hard road, but hopefully you'll enjoy it as well. And that's what it's all about, as well, enjoying the journey, enjoying the opportunity. Look, most brands, most startups, there's a fundamental thing that makes, and that's called a story. You gotta have a story. Storytelling is now the new marketing golden bullet. You gotta be able to tell a story. And that's why a lot of brands, when they show you a Rolex, it's how it's made, what it's doing, the instruments they use. It's a premium brand. You have a story, and the story is the norm. And there's access to a variety of batik. I didn't realize how much the price ranged from thousands of pounds right through to a few pounds for a batik shirt. I didn't even know that. And I was like, so why is that one so expensive? Yeah. Then on the plane, on the Batik Airways plane, I opened the magazine and my colleague was at Hamza. And I automatically thought to myself, I can see why I'm paying the pay for that. Do you see where I'm coming from? Yeah, your challenge will always be price. If you're leading in a market where price is the most deciding factor, it's going to always be difficult for you. Not differentiated. What you probably need to do is make yourself target market. Don't go for mass. Choose a premium customer. There are premium customers in Indonesia who value this, and you need to tell the story in an effective manner to remind people. The second thing you need to do is, batik is made in different regions in different ways. You need to get them to buy into what you're doing, so they also promote it. And what you need to do is go around to all those villages and those places and make videos, make the assets, release them, show them, so that they support you. And the third thing is, in terms of expanding around the world, you're probably going to find that people like the story there more, and they probably won't even know the difference between a cheap one and an expensive one. They probably won't even know. Right? So you can appropriately price there. So premium in the other, to access batik. And what happens with these type of products is that you buy the shirt, the first shirt, an expensive one, you just go off the ladder. That's how luxury brands work. Prada will sell you, they'll never be cheap, but they'll sell you an expensive bracelet that you can afford. And then you'll buy the coat and they get you up the ladder. And that's how retailers work. But they is, how can you introduce batik? Not just a shirt or a cloth or a clothing. Also, batik is really, really beautiful. And it can be used in international spaces as furniture, as cushion coverings, as all sorts of things that hasn't been thought of before. And they have more. You should start thinking about those dynamics as well. But in terms of Indonesia, don't spend too much time worrying about why people don't value it here. Because it's the wrong thing to worry about. There's a lot of problems in the world that people just don't worry about, right? And you're not gonna, if you're gonna try and beat them down on price and go, yeah, this isn't, it's not gonna work. You're gonna spend too much time doing that. And that's not your job, you're an entrepreneur. Your job is to create a sustainable business. International business, so that in Indonesia you can create a premium brand for what you do with batik. Maybe do something different with batik, not the same thing that everyone else is doing with batik. I don't know what that is. You've got to have a USP, a unique. Your premium rate for your brand and the price point will only be reflected internationally, and you can probably get the margins from there. And I've not seen batik. I was speaking to my colleague Hamza, and I was in international, but at the same time, like Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola changes its recipe in every single country. Do you know that?
Yeah.
Batik, you need to think like this.
Yeah.
And I took pictures, and it was a beautiful venue. Everyone was like, what the hell are you wearing in the UK? Because I've not seen this. The appetite is very different there. But I've seen the driver right now, our driver, he's wearing something I could wear, but still funky. The taste is going to be different, but it's like, it's going to be very different. So you have to understand the nuances as well, but you can introduce batik very nicely there. I think there's a gap in the market for that. Good luck.
Thank you.
Mungkin ada lagi yang mau bertanya? Ya Mas, boleh.
Yeah, thank you. I was a startup founder, now I'm working. Yeah. I want to ask about quantitative metric.
Sorry, what?
I want to ask
Quantitative metrics.
Quantitative. And want to dig some insight. Or when it's done with it.
Okay.
Okay. Need something that we cannot deliver. what the first thing we have to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when do you know, thank you for the question, when do you know if something's working? Example of a qualitative measure you want. Let me give you an example. I launched a company called Fair Exchange, and I built it and bootstrapped it from 0 to 25 million pounds. And I initially went to I just had an Excel spreadsheet, and I sat down with them and I said, this is what we're going to do for you, and we're going to achieve this result for you. Or I spoke to them first, I found out the problem. I said, web bookings for your taxi firm. That was a web bookings business. We're going to get you more web bookings for your taxi firm. And everyone turned around to me in that business and said, we don't want web bookings, we want phone calls. I was like, so I changed the product and said, we're going to get you more phone calls. So I changed my language now. But I had no product. I then explained the product to them and service, and if they did not sign the contract, I would. At that point, you will learn the most of why what they were saying. Was it true? Or what is the problem? Is it the price? Is it the service? What is it? Of whether someone likes something and they say it is to find out if they're going to sign on a dotted line. The way to find out is when you know that when you started a company that you're getting people talking about your company indirectly without you prompting. And you've not told them to tell someone else about you. That's a qualitative measure that they like your service. That's normally called a Net Promoter Score, NPS. It's an NPS called Net Promoter Score. It's a tool that does that. Google it, NPS. That's willing to recommend your service to somebody else. That's a qualitative measure. When people start talking about the service and liking it and saying soft things about it. Right? So those are just a couple of examples of how you can use qualitative measures in understanding, from starting a company right through to having something that works and people liking it. It's the soft measures. It's the feeling and expressions they say. Right? And the effect it's had on their life. And the change it's made for them. So that's just some. Another one could be a journalist has written about you and they like your product. You've not prompted it, but it's gone and done it. So there's lots of little things that you can see qualitatively. What was your second question?
How about if the insight, the problem is something that I cannot deliver?
So look. Sometimes problems only exist with one client, but they're not scalable to other clients. What you're trying to find is a problem that other people also have, because that's how you can build a business. Otherwise, you become a consultancy, and you just, yeah, you've got a problem, that's great. Then you need to check, does everyone else have the same problem? If they do, then you can create a product for that, because then it's scalable. But if it's just them, then it might just be the team, might be the product, it could be anything. So what you need to do is understand, in early days, you need to solve their problems. You might want to do quite a few different things, pivot and change. But once you've decided what that problem is that you're going to solve, you have to solve one painkiller problem. We have lots of problems. Have you understood the difference between a painkiller and a vitamin? A vitamin is something that you just take because you like to take it, because you think it's going to make you feel better. A painkiller is like a headache tablet. You take it because you've got a problem and you want to get a headache, get rid of your headache. You need to find problems which are painkillers, not vitamins. Google that, write it down. In Google. So you don't want to be a yes man. No. We don't do this right now, but thank you for the information. Because rather be responsible than saying yes to everything. You have to know what you want to do. But in the early days, you don't really know, so you find out. For everyone, but you need to find something that's scalable multiple times. Everyone's got the same problem. Usually that is the case. Most people will have the same problem ongoing. Good luck.
Of our discussion, let's continue to the networking session. Mungkin ada yang mau tukar kartu nama, mau tanya lagi lebih lanjut, boleh langsung aja Mas. Kita udah selesai.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Can I call you, sir?